Have you ever had that weird feeling? Like something just doesn't add up, like you're doing everything right, you're kind, you show up, you're affectionate. You even send her those sweet good morning texts with the little coffee and heart emojis. And then she's gone. Vanished. Like she evaporated into thin air. Like you became just another unread sticker on the edge of her WhatsApp screen. But the worst part isn't that she disappeared. The worst part is why. Because deep down something tells you and she didn't lose interest by accident. And even if you can't explain it, you feel it. There's some invisible rule in this game that no one ever taught you. And that's where this grumpy, pessimistic, brilliant, and let's be honest, slightly bitter, guy named Arthur Schopenhauer comes in, by the way. If you're into this kind of conversation, where we mix philosophy, human behavior, and off-the-grid insights, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We don't sell you fairy tales here. We just give you the kind of thoughts that actually make you think. Let's keep going. The cold, hard truth. Schopenhauer wasn't exactly a romantic. He didn't believe in soulmates, eternal promises, or happy endings wrapped up with a Disney soundtrack. According to him, love, that feeling that topples empires and fills heartbreak, playlists, is just nature's trick to make sure we keep reproducing. Yep, pure biology, no sugarcoating. And look, as uncomfortable as that sounds, he might have a point. When we fall in love, our brain goes full-on crazy mode. It floods us with dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, a chemical cocktail so powerful, it makes us ignore red flags the size of a billboard. And it's not because you're naive. It's because your entire body was wired to believe that loving someone is a matter of genetic life or death. And Schopenhauer didn't stop there. He pointed out that, generally speaking, women aren't driven by cold, rational logic, but by a deep biological instinct for natural selection. A built-in survival drive that pushes them to find the best possible partner to protect, provide, and ensure the success of future offspring. That's why, he argued, women often seem to gravitate toward men with status, resources, or emotional strength, rather than the so-called nice guys. Now, before you call this misogyny, let's be clear. This isn't a judgment. It's an evolutionary observation. Think about it. For most of human history, women who picked weak, unstable, or inexperienced partners didn't survive. Literally. They were abandoned, lost their children, or got eaten by the jungle. So over time, the female instinct developed a kind of radar for survival. And this is where a lot of men hit an emotional wall. They believe that if they're kind enough, devoted enough, loving enough, they'll be loved back the same way. But according to Schopenhauer, female love isn't unconditional, it's selective, it's strategic, not out of cruelty but out of survival. Hard to hear, maybe. But what if it's true? The game almost no one knows they're playing. Picture this. A guy works 12 hours a day, pays the bills, tries to be present, takes care of the kids, gives his wife back rubs when she's stressed. He's solid, committed. He's doing everything. Right then, suddenly, she goes cold, starts pulling away. Looks at him like he's an old couch that's lost its shape. What happened? According to Schopenhauer, and I'm paraphrasing here, desire doesn't come from having. It comes from chasing. In his view, the female instinct is fueled by challenge, progress, and upward movement. So once a woman feels like she's conquered everything there is to conquer in a man, her biology starts scanning for new stimulation. Now look, I'm not saying all women act this way, and Schopenhauer didn't put it in exactly those words either, but he believed this tendency is baked into our evolutionary code. Unfair. That's because it is. Love isn't fair. Nature, even less so. And it goes both ways. Take a man who falls for a woman purely because she's beautiful. He's not making a conscious choice. He's reacting to biological signals of fertility. Wide hips, clear skin, soft voice, all ancient cues telling his brain, this one can bear healthy offspring. In other words, we think we're choosing out of love, but deep down, we're just obeying instincts. Depressing, maybe, but also freeing, because once you understand the game, you can stop playing it on autopilot and start playing with awareness. And here's a personal take, just my opinion. Men who feel frustrated with women aren't really angry at women. They're angry at the fact that the world isn't playing by the rules they thought it would. And that's dangerous, because it's in the gap between fantasy and reality where resentment grows. And resentment, my friend, is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. That's why if you want any kind of control, emotional, relational, internal, you have to stop seeing female behavior as personal and start seeing it as pattern, not as a victim but as an observer. Schopenhauer once said, "Women are suited to care for children because they are children themselves." Now, at first glance, that sounds offensive, but there's a deeper context. He didn't mean childish, in a negative way. What he meant was, they have a heightened emotional and sensory awareness tuned to the present moment, to what's immediate, intense, and deeply felt, which makes sense, evolutionarily speaking. A woman needs to sense danger, emotion, and subtle shifts in her social environment to protect her children and herself. Of course, when that instinct is misunderstood, or worse, weaponized, it can turn into emotional manipulation, games, tests, coldness, and confusion for the average guy. But again, it's not cruelty, it's unconscious strategy. And here's the real turning point. The problem was never what women want. The problem is that most men don't even know what they want. As long as a man lives trying to prove he's worthy of love, he turns himself into a product, an object of validation, and Schopenhauer said it clearly. To be loved, it's not enough to be just. You have to be strong, not brute strength. Presence, the kind of strength that comes from knowing your worth, even if no one else sees it yet. The truth you didn't want but needed to hear. So let's be real for a second. Yes, some women will use you. Yes, some will pull away just when you need them the most. Yes, some will test you until you're ready to lose your mind. But you know, what's worse than all of that? Believing that this is how all women are, because then you're not just hurt. You're walking into every future relationship already bleeding. Schopenhauer didn't hate women. He just believed that human nature is driven by biological forces way deeper than we're willing to admit, and he thought that only by facing this truth, cold and raw, could a man ever find real freedom. Freedom from what? From the desperation to be loved, from the obsession with female approval, from the need to constantly prove your worth for scraps of affection. And here's the irony. The moment a man stops begging for love is when he actually becomes attractive. But by then, he doesn't even need it anymore, because he's figured out something bigger. Real value doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. And when you build a life with purpose, with vision, with direction, the right people will want to be part of it, women included. And the ones who don't? They'll keep playing a game you've already outgrown. Now let me ask you something seriously. Drop your answer in the comments. Are you playing this game by choice, or because no one ever told you the rules? I really want to know what you think.